I'm working up the lilies today and they come in several different varieties. I'll show you how I am coloring up each different type. I'm starting with the stem on this lily first, because the stems still need to get done. I come in with permanent green and put down a base layer over the whole stem. Hi everyone, welcome back to this color along. I'm Catherine, the artist behind Bigelow Fine Arts. Welcome back to the Kirby Rosanes' Worlds Within Worlds Whale Double Spread. This is going to take some time, but I am trying to break it down into more manageable chunks. There will be some speeding through, but each new area will be explored in real time. Back to the stem, and I add in shadows with pine green next. I want to make sure to add shadows to the sepals attached to the flower, as well as down the side of the stem. For the most part, I am keeping my shadows to the left. There are a few points where the line art shows shadows on the right, so I follow the line art, but most of the line art is showing shadows to the left, so I am going with it. I darken up the shadows with sepia, working it up where I placed the pine green. I give the whole stem a blend with grass green, and that is the stem. Now let's get to the lily the stem was attached to. This lily with the whale will be worked up in at least 2 passes. I will add in the pink for the flower now. Then I will come back later and work up the whale and inner parts when I work up all the whales. So I come in with light magenta and I put in a base layer over the outer portion of the lily. I want to darken the bottom of the flower, so I come in with middle purple pink and add in some color to the base of the petals. I don't take it very far, maybe a quarter to a third of the way up the flower. I blend that with a little more light magenta, and now I am going to move on to the closed flower, putting down a base layer of light magenta. For the whale bud, if more shading is needed, sepia or magenta can be added. It depends on how light your layers are. This is not finished by any stretch. For the bud, I now come in with middle purple pink and add in some shading to the bottom third, at least. I can take it up a little more to help with the gradient, but no further. I really want to keep the tips light. I add in shadows at the base with sepia, keeping it in real close to the sepals and bottom. I blend with Pink Madder Lake. I do actually take the color a little more than halfway up since this is a lighter color than the purple pink, so this will help make for a smoother gradient of color. I add in magenta to the bottom where I place the sepia to help blend in with the sepia and to help get the bottom a little darker. I also take the magenta up the left side since this side would be slightly darker being on the side facing away from the light. I blend in most of the bud. I do leave the tips lighter, but I blend everything else. I want to see where I am at color and contrast wise, but I'm not quite there yet. So I bring in more magenta and I add in more to the bottom to help darken it a little more. I am keeping it under a third of the flower. No higher, or it will throw off my gradient. And with that, let's move on to the large open flower. This one has a whale coming out of it, but a flower without the whale will work up about the same. I put down a base layer of light magenta over the whole flower. On the other large flower, I do end up not adding in the light magenta to the base of each petal because they will just be darker and my pencil is getting short. So if you want to save on a little pencil, leave the bottom third white. It will get covered with other colors later. With magenta, I want to go through and block in all of the shadows as best I can. This will take a while as I go through petal by petal and determine what shape the petal is and where I need to put the shadows. The first thing I will do is add magenta to any areas with line art depicting a shadow. This will be a great starting point. I will make shadows darker at the base of petals, the backs of petals that are facing away from the light source, as well as any places where one petal overlaps or goes behind another petal. While I go through and add in shadows and shading, I also want to make sure that I am keeping the gradient relatively smooth. I now want to go through and put in sepia in the areas where the shadows will be at their darkest. This is at the base of petals and at the overlaps. With the pink madder lake, I want to blend the pink color further up the petals closer to the tips. I also take the color down into the base of the petals as well so I can blend in with the shadows better. With the middle purple pink, I blend in more to the lower portion of each petal. The purple pink is a darker color, so I want to make sure I keep this color lower to maintain my gradient. I blend this with the shadows and part of the way up. At this point, I want to increase the contrast, so I add in some orange glaze to the places where the shadows will be darkest. The orange will desaturate the pink. If you are unsure about adding in orange, add in more sepia, but give the orange a try. I am adding in a light layer, not going too heavy, and I will blend in more colors on top to keep increasing the contrast. And for more layers, I will add in more sepia over top the orange. This blends out the orange more and continues darkening the shadows. I do want to make sure to add in extra layers at the darkest parts to keep getting them darker. As a reminder, all of my layers are made with a light hand, so if I want an area darker, I just keep adding layers, not pressure. These are hard pencils and pressing hard can damage the paper. Time to blend out the colors to see if I have the contrast in colors right. I blend out the petal with light magenta, but I leave the tips light still. I want to focus on the rest of the petal in this blending pass. For the tips, I use ivory on them. Ivory isn't the best color for this as it has a little yellow in it and it shows, but I want to keep the color light on the tips. Alternatives for this could be to use white with more light magenta. It just depends on what effect you are looking for. I like the slightly yellow tint as it adds a little warmth to the tips, like it is being hit with direct sunlight. And now it is time for more stems. I give the stems a base layer with permanent green. I block in the shadows with pine green, adding them into the base of the sepals, as well as down one side of the stem. I blend the colors together with grass green, letting me know where I am with my color. Finally, I add in sepia to increase the contrast and add to the gradient. And that is how I will be working up each of the different types of flowers for the rest of this page. The rest of this will be going by fast to show the rest of the flowers coming together. If this is your first time here, welcome! This is the second part in this whale series as I work through this large 2-page spread. I have the rest of the playlist linked above. If you like what you saw, hit that subscribe button to stay informed of the next color along. Thanks for coloring along with me. Let me know how your lilies turned out. I'd love to know. If you want more like this, I have another color along with a lily if you want more lily practice. Until next time, happy coloring.